let me tell you, when we're making a difference for a mom, we're making a difference for that next generation, for those babies that would have been left behind if we hadn't helped their mom. So it's a beautiful thing when we get to see these kids, see their mom having victory, and then they have victories as well.
Hey Colorado, what is good? Thanks for joining me. I hope that you are doing well. Today's show is an inspiring story about a mom who is helping provide hope and encouragement for other moms. Jenny Dean Schmidt, who will be joining me in a moment, is the host of a local radio program called ChannelMom. It's broadcast on KRKS 94.7 here in the Denver market. But in addition to that, Jenny is the head of several ministry outreach programs that she has started. And these programs help women who have been living on the streets and are rebuilding their lives from homelessness. Women who are in prison and trying to have better relationships with their children. And women who are single moms who are struggling a little bit financially and use a little assistance and again, encouragement. In addition to all that, Jenny is about ready to release a new book this spring called Mom, You're Amazing, and it's filled with several inspiring stories of other moms across the country. Now, I'll let Jenny share about her book in ways that you can get that if you're interested. But with that, let's dive in, and will you please help me welcome Jenny Dean Schmidt. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I've got to applaud you for doing positive news in the midst of all the negative stuff. It's a blessing that you are just saying, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to focus on what's going on that's good in our world. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Jenny. And it would be very easy to do negative news. I could get a lot of clicks doing it. But and there's certain things I would love to cover. But I found this is a really great avenue and it's really needed. And particularly in a world where we learned a few months ago that Facebook promotes negative posts 5 times more than positive posts. So let's help break through that and provide a little bit of encouragement and good news for people. That's what I want to do.
Amen.
Thank you.
As somebody who comes from TV news, I know all too well that habit, because we as a reporter, I was told to go out and find the negative news, because if you could scare people, they might watch the evening news. So it's a problem in the media overall.
Yeah, I think Don Henley has a blockbuster song along those lines. Yes, so, no, this is great. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming on today. Like I said, I heard you on the radio a few months ago and reached out and said, I got to get her on. Like this, what you're doing is so incredible. So appreciate that we're finally able to connect. I guess, starting out here at the top, would love if you could share a little bit about your work through ChannelMom, not just in the radio, all the other outreach programs that you have going on, and share a little bit about how you're making a difference in our community.
Well, thank you for asking. There's a great backstory, but I'll hold back on the backstory. I was motivated as a mom, and I came from a place of depression and darkness and woe and sadness as a mom that drove me to want to minister to and encourage other moms. And that happened, 18 years ago. And I was motivated to just start something that would encourage moms, because partly I come from so much negative media as a former television reporter, and I worked in TV news for a long time, that when I became a mom, I realized that we have all this stuff on our screens, especially now that we're holding them up here. We weren't holding them up here back in the day when I started ChannelMom, but there's so much negative stuff, and there's so many things that are honored on our screens that has very little to do with motherhood, and there's very little honor for motherhood except one day a year, and that's coming up, Mother's Day. So I felt led to become somebody who stood for honoring the role of motherhood, because it's deeply important and we forget to talk about the influence of a mom in our culture. So I started with media because that's what I knew. And I just did some things on the web. But in the intervening 18 years, 17 and a half, 18 years, I began to do radio about 10 years ago, and I moved to different stations. I finally ended up at Salem Media, and I'm on 94.7 FM or KRKS here in Denver, but we're also on 11 other stations across the nation. And I do that show with interviews with authors and experts but more than anything, just to say, hey, mom, we're here to say how important you are, how amazing you are, how special you are. And now here's some advice to make you even more so. And it's people that folks would know. I mean, I've had everybody on from Kathy Lee Gifford coming up. I think I might be having some of the ladies from Duck Dynasty. And
Cool.
I've had experts and authors that you might know from your past. The man who used to be on Good Morning America and wrote the birth order book, Dr. Kevin Lehman. So folks that you would know, and then folks that you wouldn't know, but all of them speak to the mom to embolden her and make her life better. So there's that media piece. So we're on the radio and we're also on podcast. And we also, of course, do social media. You can find us anywhere at Channel Mom. I'd be honored if anybody watching would go follow us at Channel Mom. But then I felt led to not just be in the airwaves, but also on the ground. Yeah, that's a little picture of all the different outreaches that we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's our least updated webpage. So I feel bad.
I had to pick that, of course.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I gotta go beyond the airwaves and reach to moms and their kiddos down on the ground. So we began to develop a series of different outreaches where we thought moms were struggling most. So we have a single mom outreach, and that's kind of gets kicked off every Christmas, where we find moms in need and we bring them Christmas gifts and maybe a Christmas tree and just kind of love on them at the beginning of the Christmas season. And then if we discover that they need further help throughout the year, we will provide resources for them, because we know single moms have a hard go, and they're doing so much, and there's so much sacrifice there that they need somebody just to come alongside and say thank you and let us help you a little bit. And then in addition to that, we have a homeless outreach. We work with Denver Rescue Mission here in Denver. We'd love to work with missions in other states and cities as well. But when that entity, Denver Rescue Mission, releases a single mom and her children from their system, who's been living in one of their houses or one of their facilities because they were homeless, and they went to the Denver Rescue Mission. When they get released and are transitioning back into quote unquote kind of real life, we assign them a mentor, and then that mentor becomes a friend of theirs for a year and beyond, just to say, hey, I'm here to be your friend, to have kind of a stable friend instead of maybe some of your past friendships that forced you into homelessness. They're drug dealers, and I hate to say it, they're pimps and things like that in their past that you kind of want to draw them away from and be their friend. And that friend is there to give them advice, but also just to encourage them and to meet them or to take them out to a meal, whatever it is, just somebody to be a friend to encourage them in this new life and help them get on. And then finally, the one that you're most excited about, our prison ministry. And I brought a picture because I am extremely happy about this ministry. I don't know if you can see all the ladies there.
Yeah, and I think you have that on your website as well.
We have it on our website. Yeah. That's our first graduating class. We started 3 years ago. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Very good. Nice transition there, Aaron.
I'm learning.
3 years ago, right before COVID. And so we had like about 40 inmates taking our class, kind of filtering through, but we had to stop it. So we couldn't have a graduating class. So we had to start right after, sort of after COVID. It was kind of in the middle, and then they stopped us again, then we started again. But we were able to have 10 women in a class at a time instead of 20 because of COVID rules. But there was so many women, there were so many women on our waiting list that they kind of snuck in a few extras. And we had a graduating class of 13 with a waiting list right now, still waiting to come on and take our classes at the Denver Women's Correctional Facility. Okay. That is my pride and joy. That is where I think, as somebody who loves God, his heart is these women that I was once told by a prison employee have the greatest shame they've ever seen on the demographic of people is women in prison.
Yeah,
because
I'm sure.
Not only have they broken the law, they've let down society, they've let down their children. And so they carry this shame, and they don't feel like they can have an excuse to be back in their children's lives. But we come in to give them an 8-week course to say, you can have a place in your children's lives. Let's work on your inner healing, and then let's work on healthy parenting and teach you why re-engaging your children will keep your children from following your legacy right into prison.
So what's interesting is when I first heard you talk about this on the air, I didn't know you, and that was the first time that I heard your show. And when I hear prison ministry, I guess I have maybe a very stereotypical image in my mind of that, where your group is going into a prison, sitting in a room with a group of inmates, group of women, and you do some Bible studies, you do some prayer, trying to encourage them, feed them spiritually, and then kind of walk away and say, yeah, maybe we'll see you in another month, right? And continue praying. And we'll get into this in just a minute, but you guys are doing so much more and pouring into the lives of these women and these moms and equipping them. It's really fabulous. Hey, friends, I just want to jump in here real quick and say thanks for tuning in to Mile High Live. My mission here is to spotlight people who elevate Colorado, people who are rolling up their sleeves, doing the hard work to help individuals in their community, and people who are helping make Colorado the great place that you and I know and love. So thanks for hanging out with me, and let's dive back in. There's a lot that I want to ask you about, but let's dive in and cut to the skinny on the prison ministry here, because I want to be respectful of your time as well. But you're not just doing, like I said before, going in and doing Bible studies in prayer groups
Yeah.
in prison. You're equipping moms who are there so they're better connected with their children, and can pour more into their lives when they come out. Can you share about that? Because I think what you're doing there is really incredible and inspiring, and it's really going to change a lot of lives.
Thank you. I agree. I'm going to give you a talking point that leads into this.
Okay.
And there's a reason, you'll see. I have been reading statistics and surveys recently about the state of our children in this country. And some blamed it on COVID, but others said, no, this was all happening before COVID even hit. And that is, we have seen an extreme rise in depression and anxiety and suicide and drug use, prescription drug use in particular, amongst our youth. So something has gone wrong, that our kids are feeling so desperate that all of those things are on the rise. And I'm sitting back and I'm watching what you're talking about, the red and the blue debate, and this political side and that political side, or this political effort, or that policy, or what's going on across the world, and the different viewpoints on different things, from vaccinations to COVID to immigration, to all of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I see everybody saying, well, if we just had this policy, or if we just had this leader, or if we just had this party, or if we just had this color in our state, things would change.
Right.
And what I think has gotten lost in the mix, and it's my campaign in 2022, is to say, no, all of that stuff recedes into the background when it compares to the voice of a mother. And I think mothers have been sort of handcuffed and tongue-tied in the midst of all that's been going on, that's so loud that they've forgotten the power of their voice and the power of their example. And research would suggest again and again that the model of a mother, and that the voice of a mother, and that the presence of a mother in a child's life, persistent presence, and dads too are deeply important. So I'm not discounting that. I just happen to minister to moms. That those things have kind of gotten shut out with the media voice and the political voice saying, no, 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 we're the ones that are going to fix everything for your kids. And I say, I have a dream of hope that mamas can take their place back on the stage of influence and say, we are going to be the ones that can fix this for our children. It's not just the politics. It's not just the economy. It's not just, red or blue. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not just health and medicine. It's the mom and the way she speaks into her child's life and the way she models into her child's life. And I want to re-empower mothers to say, don't listen to all those folks that say, we'll do it better than you. Thanks. We've got it from here. That is my argument. So having said that, I think what happens to a mom in prison, and the reason that her children are more likely to follow her into prison, is that she feels like her voice no longer matters. She no longer has power. She's given up her right to her children. And society says, well, we'll put them in the foster care system, and the foster care system is going to be better for your children than you because you're in prison. We walk into the prisons and say, you're still the most important influence in your child's life. So let us help you restate your position in their lives. Now, these are broken women. A lot of them are in there because they've been through domestic abuse. A lot of them are in there because they've been compromised by drugs and alcohol. So there are addiction issues, there are domestic violence issues, there are all kinds of inner healing that these women are needing. Okay. All kind, you know what I'm saying? So the beginning of our curriculum says, look, we recognize the fact that you've got to do some inner healing, that we're going to be addressing for 4 weeks. We're not going to be the total and overall healer. And that's one reason we invite God into the process. So we give them 4 weeks on sort of what has gone on in your life, and how can we start to dig into that healing, and how can we ask God for help with that healing. And then the last 4 weeks we say, all right, now that you're on a path toward wanting to find healing, and mostly and especially through Christ, how can we step now into positive parenting principles? And we wrote this curriculum with a wonderful ministry out of Dallas, Texas called Engage Parenting, a wonderful woman named Carol Ladd. We got help from a family therapist, and also, most importantly, from an ex-inmate. And we use her examples. Every single chapter has an interactive, engaging activity for mother and child. So that mom who feels trapped in prison, like she can't engage her child anymore, can do this exercise with her child on the outside to re-engage and learn how to be a parent again in her child's life. So for instance, this woman who advised us and is our lead facilitator currently in the Denver Women's Correctional Facility, she did an exercise with her kids where she says, send me one of your sheets of homework. So she's actually in that picture. So she's one of the instructors. Picture. She would say to her kids, send me a piece of your homework. And then she would mark on the homework, her comments like, mom's so proud of you, or looks like you really got this problem done well, or whatever it is. She'd send it back to them. Or she'd have them start a puzzle, and then they would send it to her and she'd finish the puzzle. But there's engagement and interactivity there. And that reestablishes the mom as a force in their child's life. And that's what we want them to get a hold of again. And then my hope is that we can stop that evil legacy that gets passed on from parent to child, that if mom's incarcerated, I'm really likely to be incarcerated. The hope of ChannelMom Prison Outreach and our curriculum called Forever Moms, because once a mom, you're always a mom, is to re-engage this mom with her child and give her hope that she can parent again, even behind prison walls, but also when she gets out. So we are also working on, with the Denver Women's Correctional Facility and the Colorado Department of Corrections, on creating continuing education, so these moms continue to engage with this curriculum when they get out of the prison system. Okay. And I think, by God's grace, we can change the whole paradigm of what happens with parent and child when a parent goes into the prison system. So my hope is that we can take this to other states and have a transformational impact through this program.
That's really incredible. You don't go small, I guess. I mean, what?
Go big or go home, baby.
So why a prison ministry? Why homeless ministry to reach moms, as opposed to some sort of like kindergarten outreach, something like that that's safer, cleaner, more domesticated? Like, you're diving in the deep end of the pool here.
Aaron, God's heart. And I hope everybody who's listening can hear that, and not just people who believe. His heart of love for the least of these. And it's not that I'm saying a woman in prison is worth less than the mom who's in the PTA with her child in kindergarten. All moms matter. They're all immensely important, but these mamas have so little, and their kids have even less. And I think if we're not helping these mamas, nobody's going to help these moms. The school can minister to the mom who's got a child in kindergarten, and we do too. But these other moms need a special kind of help. And I think they're often forgotten. No, there are organizations out there helping. But what we've discovered is we've got kind of a unique thing going on with the prisons, and a pretty unique thing going on with the homeless moms. And while it's been a very slow build, I want to encourage anybody out there with a dream. It's been a very slow build. I can't tell you how many times I was down on the carpet crying and saying, I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to do it. I'm quitting, God. It's over. I can't do it. Because, just so little feedback, so little funding, so little fruit. All the F's, feedback, funding, and fruit. But in the end, God has built us, and we are growing, and most recently we've started to grow a little more like wildfire. And my hope is that we're going to see a lot of fruit in the coming years. And I feel like those moms who are the most ignored are the ones that need us most.
Okay. Thank you. Can you share any examples or stories through this ministry where looking back, you can tell you're making a difference in somebody's life. You're seeing that change in them, or maybe they've come to you and said, "Hey, I can I'm a different person or becoming a different person than before I met you. Are there any examples like that that you can share?
Yes. Um, First of all, I think of the most recent video testimony that we got from one of our prisoners, whose name I won't use.
Sure. Please.
Lovely woman, long black hair, big brown eyes, and she stood in front of our camera and talked about how we had helped her spiritually see, and she pointed out the spiritual aspect of how important she was to her children. And she said, because of you, I'm re-engaging with my children. I see my importance in their life as their mother, and I want to be a good mom. And those words came out of her mouth, and I can see that she's working at it. And she told a story about another mom or several other moms that were in the program with her, who she said those moms haven't talked to their kids in a long time. And she said, I have watched this class cause them to reach out to their kids again and re-engage with their children. And I think that is what we want. We're trying to break that legacy of valuelessness. And these babies whose moms aren't talking to them because they've got so much shame feel unvalued. They feel like they're lost in the foster system and their mom's forgotten about them. And which is not to disparage the foster system, because there's some wonderful foster parents out there. But so that's one story. Another story is a mama on in our homeless program, and she wrote us a letter recently and sang the praises of her mentor Jennifer, not to be confused with me, Jenny, and what a difference she'd made in her life. And she talked about, she had a little stint in prison. She was also homeless, but she talked about how she now has had a job for 3.5 years. She has remained out of homelessness. She has a steady place to live. Her son is going to a good school. You should see him. He gets all dressed up for pictures and he's doing really well as a teenager.
Good.
And she's been sober for, I'm trying to remember the figure she gave us, I think a little over 3 years. And so she credits this mentoring that we brought to her, this friend that we brought to her, with the success, that part of the success, and also her renewed walk with God has helped her have the strength to be transformed. And we've watched her be transformed. Amazing woman, amazing single mom. So those are two examples of the difference we make. And let me tell you, when we're making a difference for a mom, we're making a difference for that next generation, for those babies that would have been left behind if we hadn't helped their mom. So it's a beautiful thing when we get to see these kids, see their mom having victory, and then they have victories as well.
Yeah, that impact snowballs, and you're pouring into the life of the mom, results in the kids' lives improving as well over time. So that's tremendous. Okay, time is short here. I would love to continue to talk about this, but we'll move on. So you're releasing a book here in the very near future. Here is a shot of it. You just came out recently, announced the title of it, have your cover. This is exciting news. Can you share about your book and what the mission is?
I think I look a little better in that picture than I do right now. So, but the
We'll
picture's not blows up the 20-year-old picture. The book is called Mom, You're Amazing, Changing the World One Life at a Time. And I hope I got that title right. I got to look over here. You were just, yes, changing the world one life at a time. You know, you're worried that you'll forget the title of your own book. Bottom line, I'm doing the same thing through this book that I've been doing through ChannelMom, which is to remind moms of how important they are and the impact they have on the world as they raise their children. Because, you know, back in the day, I won 1 Emmy Award. And to me, the ideal honor was to walk down a red carpet. And I'm trying to say, hey, mamas, you're walking down that red carpet of life for the God of the universe as you impact your children. And so in this book, I bring moms 8 mothering secrets by sort of interviewing. I didn't really do a self-interview, but one of the moms is me, because I was told that I put my story first so people could understand where I came from. So my story is first, my secret is first. Then I move on to 7 other mothers, some of whom you'll know. One of them is Gretchen Carlson, former Fox News anchor and also former Miss America. And she was the subject of the movie Bombshell. And then a couple of other well-known moms, and then some that are very unknown. One of them is a mother of one of the Bachelorette guys. Whatever you think about that show, some folks know who he is. And mothers with incredible stories. I have a mama out of Cleveland, whose daughter was 14 years old and walking to school to receive her perfect attendance award. And on her way to school, she chose to take kind of a shortcut through an alley, and she was raped and killed at age 14.
Oh God.
That mom, for the next 29 years, looked in prisons for the perpetrator, and because she wanted to bring closure to what had happened to her daughter. She finally came upon him, and this is the power of a mother. She had been ministering to men in prisons this whole time, looking for men without mothers, learning their stories, learning why men end up in prison, why they do what they do, not saying it's okay, but learning to provide a forgiving heart as a mother and be a mother to all these wrecked men who are in prison who having done horrible things. She was able to forgive them and be a mother to them. She came upon the guy who actually did this to her daughter, and I do not understand this, but by the grace of God, she forgave him and prayed with him and would visit him repeatedly in the name of her daughter. In a beautiful memory of her daughter,
Wow.
that kind of forgiveness. She also set up a lot of other ministries in the name of her daughter. So that's the power of her mom. Even when she lost her daughter,
Hmm.
she was still doing wonderful things as a mother on purpose in honor of her daughter. So she has a beautiful mothering secret. There are 8 mothering secrets, as I said. That's the gist of the book. But more than anything, it's to cheer moms on and remind them how important they are in our culture, even when our culture forgets to tell them how important they are.
That's
And,
great.
and and let me give you this little plug. If folks are
Please.
interested in it, there are 2 ways to find it. It's releasing, and I don't know when this interview is coming out. It's releasing April 8th. We have a website called momyouramazing.com. You can certainly find the book there, momyouramazing.com. It doesn't matter how you spell it; it'll still go to that website. And you could also email um, us at momyouramazing.com. And I'm trying to think, it's called orders at momyouramazing.com, orders
Okay.
at momyouramazing.com. And you'll get a discount up until April 8th. You'll get a discount on the book.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, look forward to
A great
hearing more
mother,
about it. Those are great.
it's a great Mother's Day gift, Aaron, just so you know, for your wife, your wonderful wife.
For my yes, um, yeah, I, she's not much of a reader, but my mom is.
Yeah, well, there
So
you go.
is
Your mom.
yeah, yeah. She
Well, and
probably
here's the great
yeah,
thing, it's
yeah,
bite-sized stories. It's not sort of
right.
this long 400-page novel. It's bite-sized stories. So maybe that would help your wife.
Okay, good. No, that's really great. Congratulations. This is your first book, is that right?
Correct, it is.
Yeah.
It took me
No,
7 years.
that's huge.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Look forward to hearing
thank
more
you.
about it. Um, so uh, I guess as you were talking a few moments ago about getting into the prison ministry, and we're beginning to wrap up here, but you're talking about being on the floor and facing those struggles, and you're trying to work through these challenges. You didn't know what you were doing day one. You had to figure it out as you went along, and you have a lot of bumps and bruises that you got along the way. But you've built these outreach programs, and you're down the path far along from where you started. You see further down the path where you want to go. But I'm curious if you can share a few tips, like your top 3 tips, whatever you want to do, for the moms that are out there who want to serve in our community, but maybe they're just not sure where to start. They might be looking at you and say, Jenny's, I could never do what she's doing. Look what she's accomplished. But you are at that starting gate one day as well. So what advice do you have for the moms that are out there who want to get involved but maybe not sure where to start?
Well, first of all, I venture to guess most moms have a bit of a dream. But I'm gonna give a precursor to this whole thing. Please don't compare. Please don't look at me and think, oh, maybe you don't think this, but she's got it all together or she's done so much or whatever. We're all imperfect and we've all had hurdles and we've all had problems and issues. I went through breast cancer 3 years ago. I just want you to know I'm an imperfect woman. So if you're feeling imperfect, um, it's okay. And I want you to think of me admitting to you that I'm imperfect and not think you got to be perfect to do the thing that you feel like you've been called to. So that's number one. But number two is I would say, you've got some talents and you feel like there's something you want to do. Just about every woman I've ever talked to says, well, I'm really good at this, or I really always wanted to do this, or I really have a heart for this group of people. Don't discount that. I think that's from God, and he's sort of giving you that inner unction that you're supposed to do something. And maybe people have said, you can also think to your mom always said, you're really good at this. And maybe if she's wrong, you don't pay any attention to it. But if she's right, go for it. And I think just about everybody has, oh, I just really love, little kids, or I just really love animals, or I just really have a heart for the hurting, or those in grief, or whatever it is, right? You know what it is, and you know what you're good at. If you're good at talking to people or not good at talking to people. You know that if you're good at being behind the scenes and organizing stuff, so maybe you organize something. Just what your talents are. What moves you on the inside. And then my last, so number one, nobody's perfect, so don't hold that ideal up for yourself. Number two, kind of what's going on the inside and what your gifts are, and go for it, and just kind of start to write it down on paper. And then number three, so that was one and two. Number three, don't give up. Don't give up. And I know that's easy to say, and that it's not necessarily easy to hear. But I tell you what, if you don't give up, it's going to happen. And unless your life gets cut short or something, do it until the day you die. Because I think that's the only reason Channel Mom has succeeded. I told you God gave me the idea 18 years ago. He gave me the name 18 years ago, and there have been many, many years of thinking. Is anybody being impacted by this? Are we doing anything new, anything different? Are any of our programs being listened to or established, or are we having an impact? And then I look at this picture of these precious moms, and I think, yep, we're having an impact. And things have grown to at least the beginning of the place where I wanted them to. And because I didn't give up. And even if you're hamstrung because you got to have another job, or you're going through a divorce, or you're going through a sickness, or your child's going through a sickness, keep it on the back burner, but don't give up. Do not give up. If you have a dream in your heart, don't give up on it.
That's great. I appreciate that advice myself. And one bit of advice that I've heard over the last year is don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. You see they're further down the path and you think you can't get there, but maybe they've been doing it for a lot longer and they didn't know when they were beginning as well. So thank you for those tips. I think those are very useful. So where can people find out more about you and Channel Mom, your radio program, and the outreach programs that you're doing?
Again, thank you for asking. We're at channelmom.org. We can always use people who help us in prayer, people who volunteer with us for one of our programs if you've been moved by that, and people who donate to us. And I think sometimes people think money is a wrong thing to ask for, but it is the thing that keeps us going, and it's the thing that allows us to intervene in these women's lives. So even if you're a donor at $15 a month or $20 a month, most of us have that. You can just go to channelmom.org, and there's a donate button there. So just if you go to channelmom.org, you can find us on all the socials at Channel Mom. I'd be honored if you'd follow us. You can find the show on 94.7 The Word here in Denver. You can also find the podcast on all of your favorite podcast places, Apple Podcasts, and Audible, and Google Podcasts, and Podbean, and Spotify, all over the place. You can find them. Did I show you guys this picture? I love this picture of my kids. They're my motivation in a lot of this, in addition to God. This is an old picture of them, probably about 15 years ago. But yeah, well, maybe even more than 15 years ago. My goodness, time flies. Anyway, that's Otis and that's Georgia Grace, my babies, and they were the thing that started my ministry and my outreach. So I'm grateful to that and to them. I love them dearly. So yeah, channelmom.org. And then if you're interested in the book, mommyou'reamazing.com, mommyou'reamazing.com, or if you want to order early, you can go to orders@mommyou'reamazing.com, that email, and just let them know and you'll get the discount. So that's all super exciting stuff. Thank you, Aaron, for letting me share.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. We went a little over, and there's so much more that I would love to ask you, but we'll keep in touch. And good luck on the launch of your book. Congratulations on your first book. That's exciting. And just look forward to seeing more in what you're doing and pouring into the lives of moms, trying to give them hope, give them encouragement here in Colorado. I'm obviously not a mom. I have no idea what it's like to be in your shoes. shoes. It's hard enough being a dad, but moms, you guys are just doing a lot of incredible work, and I think what you're doing is trying to equip and empower moms is very inspiring, and I wish you the best of luck in that, and look forward to hearing more from you
Thank
about
you.
your
And thanks
work.
for what
Yeah,
you're doing. And may God bless
thank
Mile
you.
High Live and cause it to grow. It's a wonderful thing. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, one last question I love to ask everybody before I let you go. Jenny, can you share what you think is amazing about living in Colorado?
I guess I would say there's always hope and beauty in the weather and in the surroundings. And you can live in some states and feel, landlocked and snowbound and smog bound and all those other things for months on end. In Colorado, it's always going to change, and there's always something beautiful and something wonderful just around the corner. So I mean, I live up in the mountains, and so yesterday it was very warm, and I went on a hike, and it was glorious and beautiful, and I could look up snow-capped mountains. And today it's snowing, but it's still beautiful, and it's a little bit of a change. And then I know in 2 days it's going to be warm again, and the air is clean, and it's a wholesome environment to raise my kids in, especially in the mountains. Not as much, big city. There's good things about big city too, but I like being in the mountains. So yeah, I guess I would just say that the changing and glorious and beautiful weather and environment. It's just you almost can't beat it. I love the ocean too, and I miss the ocean, but Colorado's pretty good, and I guess people have figured that out.
Hey friends, thanks for hanging out and watching today's episode. If you want more information, you can go to my website at milehighlive.co. And why .co? Because we live in Colorado and .com just didn't make sense. You can also check out this really great episode and this really great episode. Either way, hey, you're going to be watching what's good in Colorado. Appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next episode.